Good morning, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Hey, this is Megan DeVito, and I am back again with 10,000 Swords Coaching. I'm here today to talk to you guys a little bit about some really interesting stuff that I learned in the last week. So, if you don't know me yet, I am a teen coach, and I coach teenagers, young adults, like high school, college age kids, about anxiety and about all that stuff that they want for themselves that they're just not really sure they're ever going to have because they're so trapped inside that cycle of, that feeling of underlying anxiety or panic attacks, whether those happen once a month, once a week, once a day, 3 times a day, wherever that is for them on that scale. What I do is I teach like coping mechanisms and ways to really stop anxiety attacks overall, or at least to help you get backpedaled out of them so you're not so stuck. And what I've been doing is in this last week, I've been really researching with and kind of like digging into some teenagers who were so nice to volunteer their time. And they talked with me a little bit about their experiences. And I was thinking back to when I was a teenager. So to backpedal on the story a little bit, I started having anxiety when I was in probably like maybe first grade. I think I can remember feeling really nervous. And I used to get nervous every time my dad would leave town. He would have to go to like a business meeting overnight, and I was just like sick to my stomach the whole time. I was afraid he was going to get in a car accident. I just wanted him to come home. And it was one of those feelings that it seemed normal to me. But this is back in like the 80s, okay? So I'm older than you probably. And I can remember in third grade, finding this like sticky note fell out of this stack of papers my teachers handed me, and it just said always sick on it. And I was like, that wasn't very nice, but it was true. So that low level anxiety that just runs through your life and never goes away until it builds up to anxiety attacks and what those feel like. But today, what I want to talk to you about is these conversations I've had with teenagers about their experience. Because thinking back to what my experience was in a time when anxiety wasn't really a real thing, they always just thought, well, like, suck it up, you're going to be fine. As opposed to now where we really recognize that it's something that we, people do experience really high levels of, but that it's not a life sentence. That's huge because I didn't know that. But I asked these teenagers, what is it that people tell you that you're like, yeah, that's crap, that doesn't work? And I started thinking back to when I really started, the first time I ever went to an anxiety clinic. I finally got to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I was laying in bed sometimes for hours, hoping I would die, hoping I would just be done, and like begging God for anything, like whatever I have to do, God, to make this go away, let's do this. So I was at Purdue at that time. This was back in the 90s. And so in the 90s, people were starting to maybe talk about anxiety. So I went to the psychology school, and they had an anxiety counselor. And I remember sitting there and just feeling like there were rubber bands around my throat. And it was like right on that edge of I'm going to have a panic attack in a minute. And they taught me these techniques. They taught me some things. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm doing everything I can do. They talked about these big ideas and these therapies that they were going to have me do. And, hindsight now, I know it was like cognitive behavioral therapy, and that was great. And there's a lot of validity to that. But for me, there was also this like, this is garbage, it doesn't work. I still feel like hell all the time. And so I just didn't think it worked. And then, I graduate, I get married, I have kids, and I get to the point where I am now. And over the course of time, I've learned lots of coping mechanisms and lots of ways to take that anxiety and just get it down to where, yeah, some days I feel a little anxious, but panic attacks aren't happening because I know how to stop them. And feeling like I'm constantly like, oh God, I have to be really careful because at any minute it could come back, I don't really have that anymore. So I wanted to share with you one of the techniques that people taught me back when I was at Purdue, and that I hear so often, like, that's crap, that doesn't work. And the funny part about this is that people write songs about it. It's in movies, it's in TV shows, it's in everything. And it's like, it's just, you gotta breathe. You gotta breathe. Well, no crap, I have to breathe, right? Like, you gotta breathe to stay alive. I'm breathing. It's not helping. And they'll say, well, no, you gotta breathe deep. You don't have to breathe deep. All right, that's not it. So when someone gives you the golden ticket and they tell you to breathe and you're like, take your ticket and set it on fire, I don't want it, it doesn't work. It's not because it doesn't work. All right. And I know some of you are like, oh, here she is. She's going to tell me to breathe again. Yeah, I am. There's a reason I'm going to tell you that, though. Okay. For years, people told me, it's okay, just breathe. And I just wanted to flip them off because I was like, no, it doesn't work. But then I learned how to do it. Okay. And I learned how to do it. And the secret is not breathing deep. The secret is how you exhale. All right. So I'm not going to get all yoga-ish on you here, but I'm going to set down my coffee and we're going to try something. All right. And this is something that I teach my coaching clients. You can Google it. The numbers aren't important. Okay. The numbers that I teach because I think they're easy to learn. And we're going to call this 5-5-7 breathing. Okay. The key is not to fill your lungs up so full that you feel like you're going to bust. That's not it. The key is the exhale. Okay. So if you watch me do this, and I'll show you first and then I'll talk about how it works. Okay, so we breathe in for 5 seconds. Hold for 5 seconds. Exhale for 7. All right, the exhale is the long part. It's not the breathe in part. Otherwise, we're like, if you do that enough, you're going to need a paper bag. You're going to hyperventilate. You're going to go numb. You're going to start getting lightheaded, and then you're going to spin into a panic attack, and it doesn't work. All right. The key is in the exhale. So breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out for 7 seconds. And I'll tell you a story. I was, anxiety is a weird thing. You're like floating around eating an ice cream cone and the next thing you know, you're crying and who the heck knows what happens, right? You're like, I don't know what happened. It just happened. I was just driving one day and I'm like, whoa, I'm getting real anxious. Nothing's going on. I'm listening to like a podcast and it's not a scary podcast. It's nothing that would trigger anxiety for me. It was just a feeling. And if you have anxiety, you know what this is like, right? So I'm like, all right, I can feel it. I'm not sure what's up and I'm going to breathe. And I'm driving. So this 5-5-7 thing, you can totally do this even when you're driving. Okay. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to stop and like ohm out or something. You don't have to do that. Now, I will do that sometimes. I'll just like start my day breathing because it's so good for you. Okay. It resets your system. And I get a lot deeper into that in my coaching, but I didn't want to leave you guys feeling like if somebody hands you this thing and it says breathe and you just ignore it at the first thing because you're like, it doesn't work. It does. But telling someone to breathe doesn't work. All right. In the middle of that panic attack, if someone says breathe and you're inclined to launch at them, I get it. All right. But now you know. Now you know. So the next time you feel like you're about ready to lose your mind and spiral down that rabbit hole into panic, stop. And remember, it's not about how deep you breathe. It's about how long you exhale. All right? That's what I've got for you today. And I hope that if you like this, you will subscribe, you will share it, and that you will practice it and tell all your friends about it. Because guys, there is no reason that we should be running around feeling anxious all the time. Okay? We can fix this. Stick with me. There is so much more to come. I got big things coming. All right? Also, check out the link that's going to be at the bottom of this video, or if you're on Instagram, check out the link in my bio. I have a really, really great guide on how you can start stopping panic attacks fast so that you don't get to that point anymore. You've got this. Thanks for coming in today. Thanks for watching. See ya.